Okie dokie, we are live. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing very well. Let me make sure that we don't have any audio issues or any video issues. Just give me one moment. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing Yep, it is working well. Awesome. Well, welcome to episode number 27 of Azren's journal. For those of you who have not seen these videos before, it is pretty straightforward. This is a segment on my YouTube channel where I share various language learning tips and, of course, give you a little bit of an insight into my personal language learning journey. For those of you who have not been keeping up recently, you'll notice I'm in a different venue compared to usual. I am in Taiwan. More specifically, I'm in the city of Taipei. I'm here studying Mandarin. And I had a crazy thought the other day, and I haven't quite articulated this in this particular manner before, so I'm excited to do so. I, every single day, at least Monday through Friday, am either teaching or learning languages, studying Mandarin specifically, for 10 hours a day, approximately. Call it 10 to 12, 9 to 12 hours a day, depending on the day, which is a lot, right? That's a lot of effort into learning a language. And I think what's noteworthy, what's interesting to note, wow, my glasses are super dirty. What's very noteworthy is often when you look at language learners, some people will make comments such as, oh, wow, you must be so talented. It must come natural to you. How do you do it? Like, how do people become fluent? You must have some kind of natural skill set, all that kind of stuff, which is, to some extent, I think there is a certain level of truth to that kind of statement. But I think we forget just how far effort can really take us. The example I've given, I've been talking about this on all of my social networks. So I've been talking about this a lot recently, but it's like if I were to put the amount of effort I'm putting now into language learning, if I were to put that into guitar or learning how to play the trumpet or getting into a specific sport like tennis or badminton or something, I would likely get very good at that. I would overcome, even if I'm not the most athletic person, I could still maximize a lot of the skills that I have, and I could still get a heck of a lot better and probably get really good at whatever I put all that effort into. So ultimately, I think at the end of the day, what happens is the natural skill sets that we have, the natural talent that we might have inside, only allows us to, basically means, are you going to be absolutely gifted with language learning? Are you someone who's going to go learn 12 languages and be really fluent? That's kind of where talent and such might come into play a little bit more. Not just, I think, becoming fluent in a couple of languages, 3 languages. I don't know if you need to be talented to necessarily become fluent in 2, 3, 4, 5 languages. I really don't think so. I think effort alone, can really get you there to achieve, even conversational fluency in, 2, 3, 4, 5 languages. I hope that made sense. I hope I articulated that clearly. Now, I want to dive into a couple of things in today's video. Number one is a little bit of a crazy story from here in Taiwan. And then number two is the title of this video, the 70% rule for language learning. I think we'll start with the crazy story, and then we'll get into the 70% rule. So, as you know, I'm in Taiwan, I'm in Taipei. Yesterday, we went to, myself and a friend of mine, Amanda, we are taking Mandarin classes here together in Taipei. We decided that we are going to go to a national park, which is called Yangmingshan, so Yangmingshan National Park. We went out, we're like, yeah, this will be good. We'll go to this hot springs. It's very nature oriented. There's trees. It looked really nice. So we found the bus, we figured it out, we got there. Now, we made a crucial mistake. And the crucial mistake was we got off at the wrong bus stop. You see, this national park is very large. And we ended up getting off the bus right near the edge of the national park. And we're like, okay, we got to find the hot springs. But the hot springs were a heck of a lot further in to the national park. So we decided, let's go hike to the national park. We can walk there, right? Google Maps said it's approximately a 1-hour walk. We can do that. But we were like going through forests, and literally it felt like we're in the middle of a jungle. And we were essentially lost. We had Google Maps, but the problem was that Google Maps was trying to direct us in a way where you physically could not go because the forest was just too dense, and we would literally have needed, like, we would have needed a machete or like a saw to like chop away grass and stuff out of our way if we wanted to follow the exact route that Google Maps gave us. So we're trying our best to navigate the best way we can through all these trees and everything. Sometimes we get onto the highway because we'd find the highway and we'd walk along the highway. And it was, it was an adventure, but sometimes a little bit scary because there were no other people. There were not many cars. There were no taxis, no buses. We had cell service, which is good, but we did not know where we were. We could not have directed someone to where we were. So if one of us had gotten hurt, I just don't know what we would have done. I honestly don't know. We had actually even started a little bit of a hike that we cut quite short because there was no one there, and we realized that if we get hurt hiking on a mountain, like, it's not going to be safe. And we were seeing stuff that we're not used to seeing. We saw a monkey. We're like, that's a monkey in that tree. Monkeys are not nice. Like, they're generally not going to bother you, but man, they like to steal from you. They like to mess with you. I've had some experiences with monkeys before in India. They are not, I don't know, man. They're not super friendly per se. They're a pain in the butt. There's a sign that we saw is like, watch out for snakes. And I was like, snakes? What do you do when you see a snake? How do you know if a snake is poisonous or not? What do you do if he bites? Like I'm so clueless. I do not know the safety rules of that mountain, like, not at all. Back home in Calgary, we live close to mountains. And one of the big things when you go hiking in mountains is you have to know what the rules are of said mountain. You have to know, like, I know some general rules of what to do when we're in bear country. If we might see a bear, I know the general rules around bears, right? I know, there's a lot of stuff you just kind of know because you grew up around that mountain. This mountain, I don't know the rules. So long story short, we're getting lost. Eventually, we do end up finding the hot springs. It took us probably, 4 or 5 hours of hiking. And it was an adventure. I could probably keep talking about that adventure forever because there's a lot of weird stuff, including, I'm not going to talk about it forever because it'd just be too much. I'll give you one quick story from it, and then we'll move on to language learning stuff. One quick thing that just blew our minds. We were literally what felt like in the middle of a jungle, like rural Taiwan is kind of what it felt like. There's a couple little houses and stuff, people living there, but there's nothing out there. And we see, of all things that you could see, we see a cosplay cafe. So it's a Disney castle on the outside, and like a small one, very, very small. You walk in, it's all Disney decorated, and they had cosplay costumes. Like, you would dress up. You paid $150, like Taiwanese currency, so it's not $150, way less than that. It's approximately for approximately $6 Canadian, maybe $6 Canadian, let's say. Not expensive, but and you get to dress up in costumes, and you get to eat and drink tea and have a little tea party cosplaying. And we're like, in a forest of all places? Like, what? We were so baffled. It made absolutely no sense. So it was a big adventure. Very, very big adventure. We had a lot of fun. Very, very tired. My muscles, like, my arms are sore. My back is sore. My legs are sore. Like, I'm all sore today. And it was a lot of fun. So on my Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat, I'll be posting the pictures probably today. I haven't posted them yet, but I'll most likely post them today. Actually, if you go to my Instagram and you just look at the photos I'm tagged in, Amanda just posted her photos, so you can see some of them, but I've got a few more, obviously, but I'll be posting those today. So, all right, let us jump into the main meat of this video here, which is the 70% rule for language learning. There's a podcast I was watching, and yes, watching. I was watching the video version. It was a clip from Joe Rogan's, what is it called? The Joe Rogan Experience, I believe it is called. If you're not following that podcast, if you don't actually listen to it or watch it, I would highly recommend it. It has to be one of the most interesting pieces of content, period, that I've just seen. He had a guest on his podcast, and they're talking about exercise and working out. As you guys know, if you followed me for any period of time, you know that one thing that I'm always trying to chip forward with and move forward with is my overall health in general. I'm a lot better than I was back in 2016, but there's a lot of things I still haven't fully gotten to the place where I'd like them to be. So sometimes I'll watch Joe Rogan stuff when he brings on a guest about health and fitness, things like that. So he brought on some kind of fitness person. I'm not sure what his role was in the fitness industry, but he had some kind of role in the fitness industry. And this individual said the following statement: you should never actually be sore. You should rarely be sore the next day after you do a workout. Joe Rogan was like, what? What do you mean? Like, that seems so counterintuitive to what we often think about. And the guest said the following. He said, well, the reality is that you want to try and maximize how much time you're working out in the long term. So if you go really hard today, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go 100%. I'm going to push myself, go. Yeah, work out, do those push-ups, lift those barbells, do those blah, 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 pull-ups, sit-ups, run, cardio. If you push yourself, the next day, you have to take a bit more of a rest day. You have to, because you're so sore that maybe you can't quite do the workout to the same level. And you might actually need to rest more. You're not at the optimal state. Versus if you had gone 70%, if you'd done 70% of the effort on day one and you weren't super duper sore and you could work out or you could exercise again on day two, right? You're going to be able to, in the long term, you're going to actually get more hours of exercise done than person A who went 100% every single time they worked out. Additionally, this individual said, when you go 100%, your body gets really tired and really sore. And for someone who doesn't necessarily like working out or it's not natural for them, it's hard for them to then convince themselves to do the workout again the next day. It's difficult. It's very, very hard to do that because you're like, I'm so sore, I'm in pain, I didn't like the workout yesterday, and you want me to do it again? It's hard to sell yourself or convince yourself to do that. And that's why he's like, hey, you got to do, if the 100% of your effort, like the most you could do is 20 push-ups or whatever, 20 push-ups, maybe you should do 15. Maybe you do 15 and then you move on to whatever the next exercise or whatever part of your program is. Now, he's talking about this, and I was listening and I was watching and I was thinking, this is really smart. Like, I think this is a similar concept for language learning. For language learning, I think as well, at the end of the day, for language learning, what you want to figure out is how can you be consistent with the language? What is it going to take for you to consistently put time into the language in the long term? So how can you stick to the language and not let it fall for an 8-year window, a 7-year window, and a 9-year window, a 5-year window, a 4-year window, a number of years? What's it going to take? And if doing an hour a day or even half an hour a day, if that in your brain sounds like a push, if that sounds like, oh my God, half an hour a day, shoot me now. Like, oh, that's hard. That if immediately you're getting that kind of reaction, perhaps half an hour a day is not the right decision for you at this moment. If you can only do half an hour a week, but you're like, I can do half an hour a week consistently, weirdly enough, that's actually a better bet than trying to push yourself to doing half an hour a day, because half an hour a day, eventually you might quit because you're putting so much effort into it, and it's such a mental struggle. It's such a mental struggle. You want to build momentum, because if you've built momentum of doing half an hour a week, an hour a week, whatever amount it is, 2 days a week for an hour each day, whatever the number is for you. If you've built that momentum and you have a good level of consistency, it gets you going. It gets you going. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing this. I'm chipping away. I'm doing well. And it's encouraging. And then you might even choose to do more. You might even choose to go, you know what? I want to do an hour a week now, not half an hour. Now, I want to flip the coin over. I do want to go to the other side of the coin. It is also important to realize that if you're doing, for example, half an hour a week, your progress will be slow. So you do have to understand that the amount of effort that you're putting in, there's going to be a direct proportional result for how much effort you put in. So the more effort you're putting in, the more results you're generally going to be getting. The less effort and less time and less energy you're putting in, generally speaking, the less results you're going to get, and the slower your results are going to be. So ultimately, the balance becomes, how do you maximize the time and the effort without it being so overwhelming and so mentally challenging that you go, screw this, and you quit the language altogether, and all of a sudden you're making zero progress. How do you balance that effort side and the consistency side? How do you find that healthy balance between the two? That's the real question. And this is where self-awareness comes into play. And this is where it gets really mucky and really murky and really difficult. By the way, if you've liked the stuff I've been saying, I would appreciate likes and comments. If you haven't, I want dislikes. I just want the feedback. Likes, dislikes, agree, disagree. I want some feedback. So if you made it this far, give me something. Give me something here. So this is where things get murky. The self-awareness is where it gets murky. You might tell yourself, okay, I can do 2 times a week for 1 hour. I can do it. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, man, that's too hard. This is where we get into a very questionable territory. Is it really too hard? Or is this a moment where you have to bite down and go, I'm going to do it. This is actually something I'm going to do. That's the line where it's very, very difficult to tell. That's the difficult line, I think. If we make the workout comparison, the exercise comparison once more, I think this is a good comparison to make. Someone might say, oh, I don't have time to do 2 workouts a week for 45 minutes each. No way, I can't make the time for that. But maybe they really could. They just got to actually, bite the bullet a little bit and put a little bit of effort in and just push through that initial, oh, I don't want to do it. So sometimes that self-awareness of, is it really too much? Is it really that I physically am not able to figure this out? Or is it that I could figure this out, I'm just being lazy and I want to watch Netflix, or I want to do this instead, or I would rather work on my work project, or I would rather spend time with my family right now. Sometimes that's kind of where the balance comes in. I think a good example, and then we can move on to something a little bit different. A good example of this was just the other day. I was feeling really tired and here in Taiwan. And actually, I've never talked about this. YouTube exclusive. I've been trying to be more active in Taiwan, especially because I just am more active in Taiwan, just because of the commuting and the walking and stuff I have to do. I already am more active, but I've decided to double down. And so I've been doing little mini workouts at home, half an hour, 45 minutes with stretching and such, while I'm here in Taiwan. There was a day where I told myself I was going to do my mini workout here at home, but I was tired, and I was like, oh, you know what? I can't do it today. The second I had that thought, I had to question myself, and this is something I recommend you guys do too. I had to question, is it really that I can't do it? Is that really what's going on? Or am I using my slight fatigue as an excuse? Like, what's the real answer? So I think that's a good way to maybe build some self-awareness, is when you have a knee-jerk reaction of, oh, I can't do this, or I can do this, or whatever the thought is in regards to your language studies. I think that it's just having the consciousness to stop for a second to say, hey, Is that real? Or is that just my habitual way of thinking? Yeah, that's probably the best thing I can give you. Hello, people that are watching live. Hello, hello. Happy to see you here. This video has been going for, wow, 19 minutes. I think we can stop it here. This has been going for long enough. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your attention. You guys rock, and we will talk. We'll talk next time. Bye for now. See you.